Welcome to the 311 Griffin YouTube channel. We're doing a review of the Normandy 2 map. I wasn't going to do this at first, but I decided to primarily for three reasons, I guess. First one is I kind of just wanted to. Second reason is nobody really knows who I am. Eagle Dynamics certainly doesn't know who I am. I'm not important. So I've not received a free copy of this map. I've not been allowed to preview it before all the other peasants could go get it. I had to pay for it. The third reason is because I'm kind of a skeptic when it comes to DCS maps. I've not been skeptical of the Caucasus map because it is what it is, and it was there when I started. The Syria map, honestly, I feel like it was overhyped a bit. I feel like the community liked it a bit more than I did. But it's a good map, so I wouldn't say I was underwhelmed by that map, but most of the other maps I've been somewhat underwhelmed by. And actually, I was very, very angry. I've said this before. I was quite angry at Normandy when I first bought it, because the channel map came out right after it, and the channel map was so much more detailed. So, because of those reasons, I thought I would go ahead and do a review. Thanks for sticking with me so far. We're going to talk about the map a little bit, but I've shown some of this before and talked about this a little bit before in some other videos, but this is a proper, maybe not a proper review. I wouldn't call it a proper review. This is going to be a review of the map, but we're going to talk about some landmarks while we talk about it. So, here I've found Stonehenge. This part of the map looks pretty good. I don't know that it's a high detailed part of the map, but it's certainly not super low detail, and Stonehenge is here, so that's good. And I don't know how accurate the countryside is here, but it looks believable to me. So we're going to move on from that. Also, if you bomb and gun up the ground, the textures change, so it's kind of cool to show impacts. And I knew that you could get craters for bomb impacts, but I've never noticed craters for bullet impacts before, so that's kind of cool. So I just tooled around some different parts of the map, especially some very recognizable ones, and I've been told that this at Dover is a low detail part of this map. I don't know that I believe that, because it's not really on the edge of the map anymore. And maybe there's not just two levels of detail. Maybe it's not a high and a low. Maybe it's a high, medium, low, or a high, moderately high, medium, moderately low, low, or something like that. I don't really know. This looks like a fine part of the map to me. We got a couple lighthouses. We've got the radar installation. We've got the piers. We've got the cliffs. We've got rocks along the beach. I don't know, like, that's what I keep seeing on the internet, and people are actually arguing about it and being kind of jerky about some of this stuff, and I don't understand why, but at least for me, this looks like a fine part of the map. And actually, Dover is south of London. It's south and east of London, so like, why wouldn't it be a highly detailed part of the map? Now, I hope that eventually things like this will be collision models, like you should rip your wings off and when you go through there, but that's okay. And I'm going to show more about London here in a minute. I've flown around Paris in my other videos quite a bit, and so I didn't want to just focus on Paris in this video. Paris looks great. If I had one complaint about these areas, these large city areas, I wish there was more light, point lights at dusk and during the night, at least up until, maybe midnight. And I don't know how you would do that. That may be a DCS thing, not a map thing. But it looks kind of dead when the sun goes down to me. I finally figured out I believe that's the Louvre, and that Golden Dome thing is a museum. I don't know if it was a museum during World War II. It's the Hotel des Invalides or something like that. I don't speak French, and I can't pronounce French words. And of course, you got the Notre Dame Cathedral, and you got the Arc de Triomphe, something like that. So there's the Notre Dame. We're going to be talking about some landmarks while we do this because I'm very interested in landmarks, and I love unique buildings and unique parts of maps. They really make the maps come alive. So you can see what I was talking about, where the lights kind of like during the day, I feel like this map is kind of alive. It's done a good job, but at night, I just don't feel the same way. So, and I guess like from a general perspective of this review, I would say that I don't own Combined Arms, but I'm really considering getting it because the map during the day just feels. Oh, I think that's an old hippodrome. I don't think it's shaped quite right, but and it's not really there, but I think that's an old like Roman hippodrome. But anyway, it would seems like it'd be a lot of fun to just fight tank battles on the streets and even in the countryside a little bit. And so really the textures look good. They look pretty good down low. They look good up high, which all the maps do okay up high generally, unless we're talking about NTTR and a lot of parts of that map. But then again, that's just desert with nothing in it. So I don't know that it's always the map's fault. But yeah, the maps look good. The Normandy map looks good. I think that it's a really good upgrade. There's a lot of detail in it. So one detail that I think will be added. This is another landmark, but we're talking about the Palace of Versailles, and it should be just right down here at the end of this pool. I flew by it in my very first video and was kind of like curious if I'd missed it, but I looked it up, and it should be right about where my total velocity vector is now. It should be right there. The palace and the garden should all be in there, and they are not there. So I'm guessing those will be added because I'm pretty sure I saw an exact comment or a very direct comment about this map saying that the Palace of Versailles was included. So that's not there, but I think it will be at some point. Let's talk about some details in London now. I haven't really talked about London very much, but we've got Trafalgar Square, and that's Nelson's Column there. Now I don't know which. There's I don't remember what they're called all of a sudden. Plinths. There's 4 plinths in Trafalgar Square today. 3 of them are like famous military commanders, I think, and leaders. And then the 4th one stood empty, I think, for a very long time, like 150 years or something, and they finally started putting art on it. I didn't see them there. Here we have Parliament. There's an official name for this. We got Big Ben. I forgot to check, but I'm pretty sure that this clock will tell you the exact time that it is in the game. Most of the clocks, as we'll see, don't have hands on them. That's a nice detail. The Parliament building looks really, really good. I was quite impressed with that. Oh, it's called Westminster Hall. I forgot about that. Okay. And then back behind it is Westminster Abbey. Now not really across the street, but maybe 2 streets over. And this isn't really modeled, but there's some buildings over there that would be the Imperial War Museum. And that would have been where, like during this time that the map is set in, that would be where Churchill officed out of, I believe. That was where the war rooms were. So I saw this cool statue down here. Also saw some really cool cars down here. Like, I'm really loving the street stuff in this map. Here's a clock without hands on it. So a lot of detail down along the streets. Here's the Tower of London. Also very famous. Looks pretty good. Even down low. That's one thing I really wanted to get down low on this map and start looking at the detail. And There's some areas, obviously, we would always want it more detailed, and if you're used to playing a modern, like, first-person shooter game where you're down in the streets all the time, it's not going to look that detailed. But for a flight simulator, this is very detailed stuff. Even with the generic buildings and churches, and a lot of times in flight simulators and DCS especially, you see where the bridges, where Tower Bridge comes up, it looks a little aggressive there and a little abrupt and a little straight and unnatural. It's still not that bad. I mean, this is pretty good, and this is obviously a highly detailed area of the map, but it's pretty good for a flight simulator. And even when you get down low with a helicopter, it's not too bad. So that's a very good thing. We've got St. Paul's Cathedral. This is a very famous building. You've seen pictures of London. Well, there's a very famous picture of London burning during World War II, and this big dome is what you can see in the background. So these streets, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I don't know, I've never really been that tempted to buy combined arms, but I think it would be pretty fun to get into some street fights with tanks in this map. I really do. These and I have civilian traffic turned down. One thing I meant to mention earlier is my graphic settings and texture settings are kind of mixed. I've got a slightly older machine. I've got a 1080 Ti. There's another clock without hands. My CPU's not great. I've got decent RAM, but so I've got things set on low, medium, and high, depending on what they are. But anyway, I've got civilian traffic turned down low. But the streets still feel kind of alive to me. Just they look so much better. So we flew down the Thames. I was actually looking for Cutty Sark is like a museum shark down a museum ship down here quite a ways. It's not in the map. I'd never found it. Here we have Waterloo Station. You can fly down in it. I don't know if Cutty Sark was actually there during World War II. I'm assuming it was. It's the last of the great British tea clippers. The last floating one, I guess, anyway. This is, I believe, Victoria Cross Station, if I remember correctly. Or maybe Victoria, it's Victoria Coach, I think. Anyway. And then we're going to fly over here to Buckingham Palace. This is the Victoria Memorial to Queen Victoria. About where that smoke is, there's supposed to be a giant naked chalk man. Kern Abbas or something like that. That's the town we're near. But it would be somewhere like on that hillside, or somewhere nearabouts. I think I'm within a few hundred feet of where it should be, based on the lat long. I was kind of hoping they'd put that in there. If anybody knows how to do map textures, hit me up. I would love to have a map texture of the giant naked chalk man. I think it'd be funny. So I was really hoping. I didn't expect there to be anything there. I'm not disappointed by the fact it's not. I have a feeling I know why they wouldn't put something like that in, but there's a more detailed part. There's no detail at all. Yeah. Why'd they stop right there? Did they not want to put a giant naked man on the map? Let's talk about a few more serious things. So this is Pointe du Hoc, and there's a very interesting story about Normandy at Pointe du Hoc. This is a really good looking part. We've got represents a very famous gun position and bunker at the top of Pointe du Hoc. We've got some craters up there and trenches and fighting positions, gun positions, towers. I don't know how accurate it is, but it works for me. It looks really good. It's obvious that there was something there, and that this was a very important part of the D-Day invasion battle. So now we're approaching Omaha Beach, and this is near Vierville. Again, I don't know exactly how accurate it is. I've never been there. I've read a ton about the European theater during World War II and D-Day in particular, but I've never been there. So, but that should be Veerville over there, and we've got all the obstacles on the beach. It looks pretty good. I really like this section of the map. Also, the sand and the beach looks good. Just the textures of the beach looks pretty good. Even from this level, I think it looks pretty good. Every beach I've been to looks similar to this in terms of like the dark spots and the light spots and all that good stuff. So one thing that I was looking for on the map, and I didn't really expect this either, but I was hoping to see it, and maybe we could see it at some point in the future. Or maybe somebody could make a mod that would allow you to place it on the map, but somewhere very close to this location where I'm looking, up here in these woods on the hill, probably kind of in that open space, was a large V2 rocket site, and I believe it's pronounced Wyzerns, but it was a giant dome. You've probably seen his documentaries about it on the History Channel or something like that, where the Allies bombed it, and they bombed it a lot because it was huge. It's somewhere right in here, actually, and this is very, very close to the actual location. So I didn't really expect to see it. I was hoping to see things like that and other places like that. I think they called this giant dome La Cupola, or Schaderwerk Nordwest, or Cupola de Helfat, or Baverhaben 21. Something like that, but it should be right in here somewhere, right about where I'm landing. This is Pegasus Bridge up here, and this is the site of the, if I remember correctly, the first shots of the D-Day invasion were here, and the first Allied death was here at this bridge. And this was, I think it was British and Canadian glider-borne troops. I think it was both, if I remember correctly, both British and Canadian glider-borne troops. But it was glider-borne troops. This was not a U.S. part of the operation. This was a Commonwealth, I guess you could say, for sure, part of the operation. And anyway, it's an interesting read. I've got a book about it called Pegasus Bridge. Very good. There's also one of the early Call of Duty games had a bit in here about this, if I remember correctly, although the bridge didn't look right. But this is a really good model of the bridge. It's really cool that they threw that in here. Okay, so here we have Cannes. I'm going to mispronounce a bunch of stuff, but this is the Marie de Cannes, or something like that. I'm so bad with names. You could also say L'Abbey aux Holmes or something like that. I don't know. But that's a unique church, a unique building. Then we have this, I believe, is St. Nicholas's Church. St. Nicholas Church. Another unique building, unique church. And then we have Le Chateau de Cannes. So 3 unique buildings here in close proximity. Very cool. And then the last thing, I was looking for Brecourt Manor, and this is near the location. This isn't exactly where it is. It's actually like a half mile over. It's not really here. There's some buildings here, but it's not really here. I didn't expect this to be here either, but I saw this tractor, and I'm just absolutely loving this tractor. It looks really good. And I'm super interested in old equipment like that anyway, so it just kind of caught my eye. Again, the map looks great. I think that driving around in the countryside or the city with combined arms stuff would be really cool. It'd be a lot of fun. And there is a lot of detail on the map. Not everything is detailed. Not everything is there. I don't expect them to put every single building in. Even all the famous ones. There's so many famous and culturally significant and historically significant places in this region that you'd never be done putting them all in. Or it would just take countless hours to do so. So I think they've added a lot of cool stuff for us to go sightsee and look at and show off on the internet. And there's a lot of good fighting space here. And I am very impressed with the map. It's saying a lot from me that I am that impressed with the map, especially with how disappointed I was with Normandy to start with. That's all I have to say about it. It's probably a little bit disjointed and weird the way I've kind of pieced this together, but hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully it was at least somewhat entertaining and informative. So those are my thoughts on Normandy 2. Thanks for watching. Happy flying.